Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Rules Committee, and Councilmember Cohen is out taking a little trip today, we think. So let's take roll, please.
Davis?
Here.
Jimenez?
Here.
Heme?
Here.
Foley?
Here.
Cohen absent. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's review the agenda of September 10th. Starting on page 3, meeting starts at 9:30, or closed session starts at 9:30 with a regular session at 1:30. There is no 6 o'clock session that's been canceled. Next few pages are consent up to page 8. Then we have 8.1, which is preliminary action of Tully Road. Next item is a land use item which has been deferred, and 10.2 has been deferred. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Is there a motion or comment from my colleagues?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, then let's vote.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda for September 17th. Meeting starts at 1:30, regular session. Consent starts on page 4 and runs through 4, 5, 6, and 7. We have a report from city manager, labor negotiations, potentially adoption of statement of policy regarding questions for the Director of Environmental Services, federal recognition of Muwekma Ohlone Tribe.
I have a comment about that one
Okay,
when we're ready.
okay. Then stormwater annual report, rent stabilization report, and no land use items. Is there any comments from the members of the public?
No public comment.
Okay. Is there a motion, or Councilmember Davis, you had
Yes,
a comment?
thank you. So in conversation with my Brown Act, we would like to make 3.4 just an information item, so we'll strike item 3.4B from the agenda. And we would still like to have the professor come and give us information. And this is related to the information that we received last week. It is a very complex issue, and we think that we need to have an information item to have some discussion about it and not make a decision that day.
Okay, so just not an info memo, but information, so it will be the presentation that was scheduled to be done last with more information.
Right.
Okay,
So I'll
great.
move the agenda for Tuesday, September 17th with item 3.4B struck from the agenda.
Great. Is there a second? Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes.
Okay, having dispensed with the agendas for our upcoming meetings, moving to the consent calendar. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on the consent calendar?
No public comment.
Is there a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
All in favor of consent? Thank you. Moving on to the first item, which is a development process and CEQA improvement analysis that was came to this committee and sent to have a workload analysis. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on it, or do we have a presentation? Are you making a presentation on it now? Okay. Then Is there, then if there's no,
No public comment.
okay, then moving to the committee.
Since it wasn't greenlit, it seems like it will, this issue will outlive both Councilmember Jimenez and myself. So it will be part of the discussion with the budget in the next budget cycle. So I don't think we have to take any action to do that, do we?
I don't think we do. I just do have one correction, though. In the workload analysis, it references Mayor, Councilmember Jimenez, and Councilmember Duong, but I think that's should be Councilmember Davis.
Correct. Thank you for catching that.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, thank you. I share the sentiments that Councilmember Davis expressed. I would just say that, you know, the memo that was sent here to Rules on August 8th, that was signed by the mayor, myself, and Councilmember Davis, that was done in coordination with the planning department staff and my team and the mayor's team and Dev's team, and so I was under the impression it was going to be greenlit, and I thought the main difference was the fact that we changed the date of return. Originally, we had on the original memo Q2 2025. But I think we've learned internally that wouldn't have changed the green or yellow. And that surprised me because I thought we worked through some of that prior to submission of this because we want to be thoughtful and don't want to submit something that's just going to get kicked back. So we always try to do the work ahead of time. And so that surprised me, and I just wanted to raise that. And just a tad frustrated that this is going to continue just in circles. But.
Yeah, Councilmember, and Chris Burton arrived at a perfect time. He could shed some additional context because we did discuss this earlier today, so he could shed some light on next steps.
Q2, so
And Chris, did you capture kind of the sentiment of what Councilmember Jimenez mentioned, or do you mind maybe paraphrasing?
I'll take a recap.
You want? well, the brief abbreviated version of this is just simply that my team, Councilmember Davis' team, and I'm sure the mayor's team often, we try to do all the work ahead of time and talk to the offices involved to make sure that what we're submitting is a go, if you will. And I thought that was the case here, but I was surprised to see the yellow light, and I was thinking that maybe the data bringing it back was the issue, but I was told that even that wouldn't have changed it, and so I'm curious as to why.
Yeah, and so thank you, Councilmember. Chris Burton, Director of Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, joined here by David Keon, our Principal Planner for our environmental team. So we did absolutely meet with council staff to discuss this, and I think we did raise a number of our concerns. Really, we're playing a balancing act right now. When you think about our environmental team, we have 6 planners, 1 supervising planner, and David. And that's covering all private development in the city, all of the work we're doing around affordable housing for both CEQA and NEPA, all of the work we're doing around homelessness. There's a lot of work we do through our CEQA team to support public works on capital projects, to support the regional water quality facility, right, the plan, to support public works with other projects, and the airport as well. So, I mean, there's a huge volume of work that runs through that team, in addition to all of the policy work and stuff that's coming through our general plan team. So, limited resources. On top of that, we did a fairly comprehensive review of our CEQA process through the audit back in 2022 that really laid out a number of items that align quite closely with what's in this memo. And that's work that's underway, but it's work that occurs in that thin margin of extra capacity that we have. So if we stop to sort of take a look at some of these items, that's the kind of work that we're going to see at jeopardy. It's either going to delay or put off some of those work items that ultimately I think are going to be beneficial. Now, I think once we're completed with the audit recommendations and a couple of these other work items, we'll be a long ways sort of further along on kind of where you're trying to get to with this memo. I think, certainly you're looking at the right areas, but much of this work is currently already underway. And given that resource limitation, if we sort of, we're going to have to pause or slow something down to kind of get after what's in this memo.
Okay, I don't have any, I think I see what's going to happen here, and I'm okay with it. Anyway, I just hope we eventually sort of get to the, because I feel like even during the planning, permitting, transition committees. I feel like we touched on some of this, even as an example, the revenue model for the department and such. And I feel like we've touched it, but it just sort of lingers. And so I'm hoping that for the next council, or, and you have your work cut out for you, certainly, and so that we eventually dig a little deeper into some of these things. And I know you're already doing it, but just I think at the pace of it comes back, I think is what I'd like to see a little bit more speed on that end. But I understand, obviously, you can only do what you can do related to staff. So.
Councilmember, I think you make some really good points, and I know that this has been kind of an ongoing issue, and also, want to also respect the perspective that Director Burton mentioned, because there is a lot of scope issue. However, I do think there's embedded in this recommendation, there's number 2, which is prepare city managers MBA in the next budget cycle. I would recommend perhaps that is a referral that comes from rules to the budget process, and then that'll give staff some time to kind of at least take a look at the issues that have been raised to date in the context of an MBA and the budget process, so that way we don't lose the momentum and the feedback that we received to date. And at the same time, we're still, being aware of kind of the scope that we're trying to manage through code of PBCE.
And so would we just, in the minds of everyone present on the dais, just move forward with item 2, if you will? And I mean, I assume that can be greenlit. I mean, it's something in the distant future. Is that, do we need a motion for that, or do we?
Yeah, you would need a motion
Okay.
to move item number 2.
Okay, all right. So obviously the memo, yellow lighting, some of the other aspect of the work, cool. That'll remain, and as staff's recommendation per the workload analysis, and then I'll just make a motion to approve item 2 from the memo dated August 8th that touches on the MBA for the next budget cycle, and with an overview of the workload and workflow in the context of the current cost recovery model, which I know that's been discussed just from the development community, and even Chris, we've discussed it. And then obviously the 2B, the recommendations for a phased increase in general funding to PBC for work currently not included in the cost recovery model, such as phone calls from us and other stakeholders asking questions from the department. So.
Okay, is there any, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you.
Right.
I appreciate all the work that you've been doing to improve and hopefully streamline the CEQA process. I guess I would just ask Councilmember Foley, as chair of the CED, do you feel like the committee has been updated sufficiently on these issues and know where we are in the process?
Thank you for asking. I note that we do have a report coming to CED in February that should include a CEQA streamlining for downtown projects. So I'm hoping that will include in detail how we might be able to streamline CEQA and suggestions on moving that process forward. So it's already part of our work plan to come to us in February. So I think we're okay if the report we get is detailed.
So I don't think it's necessarily as detailed as that. Just to be clear, so we got direction on the downtown piece. So the situation we have in downtown is we have a program level EIR, yet we still have projects having to do EIRs, right? And that's partly because of the situation given the historic status of much of the downtown. So we were given specific direction previously to look at downtown to see what we could do around standard conditions or mitigations that would help alleviate that issue. And that's the work that's sort of on track to come to CED in February. Now, I think that the critical piece is baked into a couple of work items that are already on our work plan that are sort of at risk from stopping to do other things. One, in the audit recommendations, there's very clear direction that we currently have underway around preparing citywide guidelines, standard mitigations, and conditions that help streamline our CEQA process, right? That get us closer to using more of the different exemptions that are available, but also allow projects to navigate more effectively the CEQA process. So that's work that's currently underway with a consultant. I'd say also, in addition to that, the ministerial process that we're working on and hoping to bring to council before the end of the calendar year will sort of mirror much of that work. It will look to sort of create a condition where projects can sort of meet best practices under CEQA to avoid deeper analysis and use a much more streamlined path. In the case of ministerial, there won't be a CEQA path, it will be ministerial. It won't be subject to CEQA. So we're already looking at a number of things that are currently underway that allow us to do that. We can certainly provide sort of ongoing updates. I think the audit report is coming to council in October, so that's one opportunity. We can continue to provide additional conversations. We have our report to CED in September, just on overall permit streamlining and sort of where things sit with the dashboard. I would imagine, like I said, we'll be at council with the ministerial process in December. We'll be talking about how that streamlines CEQA there. We're currently doing our approved consultant list. That's going through an RFQ process. To the extent that there's sort of more involved in that process, that will likely end up at council at some point this year. So I think there are a number of touch points where you'll see sort of parts of this process, and we can continue to highlight that and talk about how this sort of works towards the overall improvement of the process for private development applications.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So I just want to be clear that the spirit of the memo is really that we hear from developers that this process is still more burdensome in the city of San Jose than it is in other surrounding cities. And we wanted to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to streamline the process and cut down on the checklist, whatever that checklist is, and really to make it as transparent as possible. To bring down the time that it takes to get through the development process so we can get shovels in the ground and cranes in the air, right? So I appreciate you talking about all the things that you are doing and the fact that you will be updating us, because really, I honestly don't care if it's red lit or yellow lit. If the work is getting done, the spirit of the point of the memo is really about doing everything we can do in this trough time of development to streamline the process so that as soon as folks can get financing, we have projects that are moving forward instead of getting stuck. So I just want to be really clear about that, and I appreciate that there are things that are coming to council, and I would just say that I'm not the chair of CED. She's sitting next to me, and I would guess that you would be open to hearing updates frequently about that, and so that we would be able to know what is happening so that we have something to say when developers talk to us about the pain points that they are still experiencing. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Kamei.
Thank you. This is really very, very important work. And, I guess at the end of the day, it's really, how do we know that projects move forward quickly? I mean, I think that I've been hearing about problems with CEQA for a very, very long time. And so I think that if you're able to maybe give greater clarity on, how do we, once a project gets submitted, and I know you've done it through like the online applications and submittals and all of that, but I think that if people are still saying the same thing that I've heard years ago, then either the message is not getting out there that yes, in fact, we're trying to streamline, or that we are streamlining, and I think that creating that clarity somehow, some way, if from your point of view you're saying, yes, we're streamlining, and we're hearing, no, you're not, then there's some either communication or something going on that I don't know, but I've been hearing the problems with CEQA for years. And, given that we do have this downtime, it'll be good to kind of like assess how we're communicating what we do and don't do, what used to be and what is now, might be a little bit helpful, because I think the word out there is still the same, even though you've done all of these things, and I know that you've done some really good things in terms of putting things online, making it more accessible and all of that, but somehow people still think, oh my gosh, it's taken years and it's taken months and whatever. So maybe think about that. And then the other thing, you know, and I don't know if you take advantage of this. I know I do in terms of the talent that's next door at San Jose State. On some of these things, you know, you can scope this out and say, okay, I don't have time with the given staff that I have, but maybe some of the talent that's at San Jose State can help augment whatever it is that you need to collect some of this. Some of it is like research, right? And I know that we have a good collaboration with San Jose State, so you know, I'd continue using them as much as possible. And I think that in some projects you have, but you know, collecting some of this data and information and all of that, doing the comparisons to me would seem like a great project for someone. So, and I believe in the talent there, so I think that you can find some really bright minds over there.
So, Vice Mayor, so we agree, and we, you know, value our partnership with San Jose State and the faculty and the students that are there. I just do want to touch on the benchmarking piece relative to other cities, because I think it is an important part of the conversation. It's something that we are acutely aware of, and something that was included in the audit in 22. So the auditor went out and did benchmarking with Oakland, San Francisco, Long Beach, Los Angeles, San Diego, Milpitas, and Santa Clara. And generally speaking, I'll try not to paraphrase too much for the auditor, you know, we were doing a pretty good job from a process standpoint where they felt like there were gaps or opportunities. They did include those as audit recommendations. And again, that's a lot of the work that's currently underway as a result of that audit. So again, you know, totally take the point. It's definitely something that we're clearly working on. I definitely appreciate the point about communication as well. You know, audits aren't always the thing that they follow from a development community, so we can do a better job to talk to that. I will also say, though, we have seen a marked increase this year in people using the Class 32 infill exemption. So, you know, I think we're out there, we're doing the work, we're talking to developers, we're looking for those opportunities. It's still state law, it's still secret, and it's still difficult. It still offers, you know, significant legal protections when you take certain paths. So, you know, we definitely take that responsibility seriously as a department, but we do constantly work with the development community to try and find the best path forward.
Councilmember, so just to kind of bring some closure to this conversation. So we clearly hear the concerns that have been expressed today and prior to this meeting. I think what I heard Chris speak pretty clearly about that, you know, there is a significant focus on implementing the CEQA, I mean the audit recommendations. What I'm also hearing is a commitment to be more detailed and comprehensive in the report outs and the messaging both to council as well as to our external stakeholders, because I think that's also part of the optics issue here. And so we'll do that more intentionally. And then thirdly, I think as Chris and the team are implementing all these different strategies and continue their engagement with stakeholders, I think if we could fold all those findings into an MBA and time it around the budget process, then that provides an opportunity for Chris to then take these different recommendations and any new findings along that process and address it through and call the question through the budget process, right? And so I think if we preserve that recommendation 2A and 2B, I think it'll help move that along. And so that would be you know, a recommendation from the administration.
I appreciate the discussion, and streamlining CEQA is really important, and it's important to see what our other cities are doing in relationship to it as well. We hear from our stakeholders, it's already been said all the time, the developers, about CEQA, how it delays the process, stands in the way, why is it necessary when other cities aren't asking for the same thing. So you've heard our comments on, I'm hoping when it does come to CED, we'll be able to identify more, have more of a presentation on CEQA in relation to what some cities are doing and we are not doing, or what they're not doing and we are doing. That might be helpful. With that, we do have a motion on the floor, which is to adopt to item 2A and B from the memo. Seeing no further discussion, let's vote. Thank you. Okay,
Motion passes.
thank you. The next item is a request to add an ordinance amending municipal code to prohibit sale or use of algorithmic devices. This is a memo that has been submitted by Councilmember Ortiz, Torres, and Cohen, and I see Councilmember Ortiz here to make a presentation.
Hello. Thank you. I want to thank Vice Chair Foley and the entire committee for the time to speak to our joint memo written by Councilmember Torres, Councilmember Cohen, and myself. I'm sure the whole council agrees that it is a top task of our government to tackle the homelessness crisis and its root cause, a runaway affordability crisis pricing more and more working families out of the housing here in our city. Algorithmic rent tools such as RealPage and YieldStar are used as middlemen to help bad actors collude to keep rent high, occupancy low, and our streets full. Certain property owners, including the largest Wall Street-backed property owners in the country, provide vast amounts of proprietary data which are combined with the data of other clients, as well as publicly available market data to recommend the maximum possible price people could pay for rent. In ProPublica investigative report, clients of the software say outright the goal of using such software is to achieve double-digit rent increases and maximum turnover across the rental market, claiming a rising tide lifts all boats. These tools are not just software serving a single client. They are tools to automate collusion to manipulate the market, to profit off our most urgent necessity, which is housing. And it isn't just me calling these practices anti-competitive. These tools have been the subject of numerous lawsuits, including from the Biden administration through the U.S. Attorney General. Named in these lawsuits, as detailed in the reporting by the Mercury News, and I left the article on your desks, are some of the largest property owners in the Bay Area. But these lawsuits will take years to resolve. And in the meantime, more of our residents will be harmed and pushed to financial edge by this predatory software. And that's why we submitted this ordinance banning the sale or use of algorithmic software to set rents, so the city can act now to bring urgent relief for working families in our city and ensure fair play for property owners who don't use these predatory tools. Artificial intelligence should be a tool for innovation and progress, not for creating monopolistic practices that drive up housing costs. The goal of this memo is to protect renters in San Jose from unfair pricing strategies and ensure a competitive and a transparent market. So I ask the committee to please support this item so that we have the opportunity to discuss as a full council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We currently have 4 public speakers. As I call your name, please make your way to the podium, and when you get to the podium, please state your name, your first name. Anil, Huascar, Tatiana, and Gabriel.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Anil Babar. I'm speaking on behalf of the California Apartment Association. And today I'm speaking about speaking on behalf of all property owners in San Jose, regardless of the fact if they use this tool or not. This memo makes a number of claims about the impact of these tools but lack any evidence to back up those claims. The memo doesn't have, in particular, does not have any data to show what the utilization rate is in the city, so we don't know how extensive a problem it is and what problem we're trying to fix. Beyond the lack of data to explain the ban, this memo would require additional staff time to enforce the ban, a ban we don't know exactly how we would enforce, because we don't know if a rent increase or decrease, because this tool can do either. We don't know those rent changes are impacted by this tool or by just simply the owner's own decisions. And any rental enforcement or any change to rental enforcement would ultimately, that cost of that enforcement would ultimately fall upon the property owner. As we've seen with whether it's the ARO or the TPO, those fees that are charged to property owners are used to enforce those programs. And as we add more tools to the ARO and TPO, it's gonna require us to update those fees and those fees will be passed on to the property owner. I will add two more points. One, if you look at rental data for the ARO over the last 4 or 5 years, and this was done recently by the Housing Department, we've seen a rent increase trend on average of 2.4% a year when rents can go up to as much as 5%. So property owners aren't raising rents to the maximum they're allowed to, they're raising rents to what the market would allow. And more importantly, and as was mentioned just a few minutes ago, this issue is being addressed by the Justice Department. It shouldn't be the responsibility of the City of San Jose, and more importantly, the responsibility of the property owners to bear the cost of this enforcement when the Justice Department is taking care of it.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Gabriel Manrique, community organizer with Luna. I'm here this afternoon to speak in support of the memo put forward by Council Members Torres, Ortiz, and Cohen to create an ordinance to prohibit the use of algorithmic devices to set rents. Allowing algorithmic devices to continue to exist has led a systemic trend of rent increases, which has a negative impact on our working class families that cannot afford the high rent increases and are continuing to be displaced out of their communities. In San Jose, approximately nearly 66% of multifamily units are utilizing this form of technology to set rents at an overly extreme level. Companies offering this technology are already subject to an antitrust lawsuit from the Department of Justice, and some cities such as Berkeley and Oakland have taken actions towards banning of this technology, which only adds to the increasing uncertainty of stable housing renters are facing throughout San Jose. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Huáscar Castro with Working Partnerships, here to speak in support of the memo put forth by Council Members Ortiz, Torres, and Cohen. Just to also name that while there is a federal example and action being taken by the Department of Justice on this antitrust suit, there are also local examples of cities such as San Francisco and Berkeley that are taking action. So knowing that there are actions going on at the local level to pair with these other initiatives. The reason why is because of the role that corporate real estate is having on the housing crisis. There is a lot of irrefutable data that shows that the amount of housing stock that is owned by corporate real estate has a direct tie to existing displacement impacts, and this is a direct example of that. This tool has been used to further exacerbate these impacts and is being investigated as a form of price fixing. For this reason, we'd like you to follow suit with other local jurisdictions and with the Department of Justice in looking to take action and moving towards getting this entire ordinance before the council for an entire decision. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Tatiana Villaseñor Carrillo, and I'm the community organizer with Latina Coalition of Silicon Valley. We are here to express our strong support for the memo, Council Members Torres, Ortiz, and Cohen to prohibit the use of algorithmic devices in setting rents. This practice has driven rent increases to unsustainable levels, disproportionately affecting working class families, including Latinas, who we are already struggling with pay disparities and inequity. The Latina Coalition is dedicated to advancing the economic and social well-being of Latinas. Again, to underscore data points already shared by Luna, in San Jose, where nearly 66% of multifamily units use this rent-setting technology, our community is bearing the brunt of these aggressive increases. As Latinas, we earn significantly less than our counterparts, with exacerbating existing inequalities and threatening our ability to thrive in our city. Corporate property owners, the main users of this software, are contributing to the growing housing crisis, with the Department of Justice pursuing antitrust action against these companies and other cities like Berkeley and Oakland taking steps to ban this practice. San Jose must do the same to protect our vulnerable residents. We urge this committee to approve the memo and give the full council the chance to eliminate this harmful tool. Thank you for your time.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilmember Ortiz for coming to council or coming to the rules to talk to us about this item. Collusion is definitely something I know we're all not in favor of, we're all opposed to. I am concerned, given the previous conversation with PBCE about workload, about housing's workload to do this. And so I wanted to ask Angel, what we normally do with stuff like this is send it to the workload analysis. Is that what you're recommending for this item?
Yeah, that's correct, Councilmember. I think just given kind of the elements kind of loaded here, staff would need to kind of review that through a workforce analysis and then come back with those results.
Okay. So I assume it will come back within 2 weeks. That's usually what the workload analysis is. So it won't be able to go on the agenda for the 10th.
Yeah, again, just in the spirit of kind of what we're managing right now, we're pretty loaded with things. I would suggest a 2 to up to 4 week period.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. So I can, do you need a motion for that? Is that what we do? I see
Yes.
Kevin nodding.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also, I just want to say San Francisco and Berkeley tend to have a little bit more staffing than we have, so things are going to move slower here if they are able to move. And I know that the priority that we've set for the housing department, as you know, Councilmember Ortiz and all of us know, is really complying with our stormwater permit. And so I'm not sure how much policy work like this they'll be able to do given the other policy work they already have. So I'll make that motion for to go to workload analysis for 2 to 4 weeks to come back to rules.
Second.
Thanks.
Thank you. I wonder, I appreciate Councilmember Ortiz for you bringing the issue before us. I am concerned that it is being requested to be put on an agenda where 4 of us will be out of the country and not able to participate. So having full council makes more sense. We won't have full council next week, and we will in 4 weeks, well, comes to rules and assuming what it does for rules. I'd like the workload analysis to include outreach efforts, what outreaching to all stakeholders that would be impacted. Additionally, enforcement. How will this ordinance be enforced? Whose responsibility? Any cost analysis that it might be required both on the city side and potentially on the landlord side. And anything else that will help us make a determination as to how this might go forward successfully. And what concerns me is an ordinance. We do this a lot, is we put ordinances in place and then we don't have the mechanism for enforcement. So I'm particularly concerned about that. So what does enforcement look like, and what does this prohibition look like? Further, the Justice Department is looking at it, and I appreciate Councilmember Ortiz that Justice Department may take a little bit longer than we are, but having this done at the federal level is an important direction for it to go. So with that, I will support the motion. Anyone else? If not, then let's vote.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving to no other items in our regular agenda, moving to open forum. Do we have any comments for public comment for open forum?
No public comment.
Thank you, then this meeting is adjourned. There is no rules meeting next week.